Hello, welcome to another episode. Again, I'm going to do something that covers an entire lineup just because doing them one by one wouldn't make too much sense. I also planned on this being my next review, but then someone commented and requested that I do these, so I think that's good timing. So I'm going to go ahead and cover the Sub-Zero, which is the very first model in the long line of Zeros, which started with the Sub-Zero, then moved on to the regular Zeros, then the new Zeros, and then the new Zeros, and then we just saw some upcoming models called the EV Zero, which is actually going to have a couple throwback colorways. So we've got a long lineage of very lightweight models that don't look like they're going to stop anytime soon. So let's take a look at the very first one. So the way these were set up is they were actually all had numbers. And it seems a little weird to do that for colorways, but if you kind of look back at their history, you can sort of see why. Way back with the eye shade, it came out with just gray lenses and then solid color frames. And basically, that was your option. If you wanted yellow, red, blue, etc., you just picked out a color frame and then you got a gray lens. Later on in the 80s, they came out with iridium and started mixing things up. But by then, they didn't really have a concrete colorway scheme. It was just initial colorings and then add-ons in the future. So then we had the blade and the M frames, and while those did have stock colorways, and I actually found a lot of those recently in a price sheet I had, they really just went more for frame and lens combinations, and customization was kind of heavy and swapping things around. They didn't really concentrate on just like a finite level of, or finite number of colorways. So, moving past those, we now get into the Zeros, and they kind of get back into just releasing a certain set of stock configurations that would then be sold in a store. These are kind of in the sport range, not so much like the M frames and blades, but they hadn't really gotten into lifestyle since the frog skin, which at the time was really from 1985 until 1996 was the only lifestyle frame for the most part. So what they did is each one did have a specific colorway with a frame and lens combination, but then they had a number associated with it too. So the first one is number 1, which is the carbon fiber, and that's going to be this guy here. So it's a carbon fiber frame with black iridium. We had the number 2, which was the fingerprint, again with black iridium and frosted orbitals. Then number 3 was Planet X, and Planet X was the start of a lot of similar crackle-themed frames. So basically it's one solid color, then sort of a hydro print of a crackle texture over it. There's no texture, it just sort of looks like it. I'm going to ignore these for the time being because these actually came out later, but they are sort of related. We had number 4, which was Planet X with blue iridium. And the blue iridium was the old style with the amber base, almost similar to fire. This kind of persisted into the 90s. These all came out in 92. These ones came out a little bit later. But things like the straight jacket, the original straight jacket, had blue iridium with that very deep amber base. And that disappeared for a while, and blue iridium kind of almost became sort of like ice until the new Razor Blade in 2005, which brought back the old retro blue iridium with that high contrasting amber base. And then nowadays it's pretty much just like a VR28 base. So really VR28 blue and regular blue iridium really don't have much of a distinction. Just like high persimmon and G30 persimmon and even to a lesser degree P32 are already pretty much the same lens, just slightly different. They package them different, but for all purposes and the variability of the iridium that gets put on them, you can't really say that they're a concrete difference. Moving on, number 5, carbon fiber. So again, it's the carbon fiber with black iridium, but you'll notice that this does not have the frosted lens. So 1 through 3 has frosted orbitals. So 4 through 6 all have just plain mirrored orbitals. So then finally moving on to number 6, we have, again, Planet X with positive red iridium. And positive red iridium has been around for ages, so that's one of the common iridiums at the time. Alright, so that's 1 through 6. We did have sort of a specialty one called the N2T, and again it has the Planet X frame, black iridium, but then it has these etched horizontal lines in the orbital in lieu of the frosted one. N2T is a reference to Jim Gennard's private airplane. He had that as its number on the tail, so that's kind of just a nod to that. Alright, moving back to this line here. For each, for the most part, of 1 through 3, they did a revision where they shortened the orbitals. So, number 1 was carbon fiber black iridium. 1N is a same exact thing, just with a shortened orbitals. Basically, they shaved off the bottom portion there just to give it sort of a slightly smaller profile. Number 2 was originally fingerprint, but 2N is burn brush, yep, with bronze iridium. And bronze iridium is pretty much gold iridium in modern terms. And then finally, the Planet X positive red iridium, and 3 and 3N is the same thing, just same colorway, just shortened orbitals. I have seen some traces of a 2N with carbon fiber and the black iridium lens, but I pretend that it doesn't exist, so I don't have an incomplete set. But typically, this one was very common, and even a few years ago, you could find this for like $50. This is by far the most common Sub-Zero out there. So if you have this, you're in good company because a lot of people have it. All right, so I bet you're wondering what these things are here, because they kind of look like Sub-Zeros. Well, these came out in 92. I think the updates came out in 93, but then also in 93 we started getting the regular Zero series. So we had the 0.1, the 0.2, 0.3, 4, 5, etc. Basically, we got up to 0.6, and they had some old Sub-Zero lenses left over. So you'll notice that these two look very similar to each other. The only difference is, all Sub-Zeros, just like the first generation of M-frame, ended at the end of the ear sock, so there was nothing past that. The Zero line, starting with the 0.1, 0.2, etc., sort of took the cue from the M-frame generation 2, and they added a fang past the ear stem. So basically, they kind of grip your head a little bit more by wrapping a little bit deeper. So if you watched my M-frame video, you can kind of see the differences with that. The Zero line had a lot more variation. So they obviously had the standard sleet with black, which was kind of the Zero version of the burn brush with black, or the Planet X with black. But they had a lot of different lenses too. So they had like a persimmon, and as I was bringing these out, I noticed that these don't have fangs. So I'm guessing this is an old custom job someone did. They just put some Sub-Zero ear stems on a 0.6 lens. When in doubt, it's probably a custom. We also had the 0.4, and again, has the fangs and all that. But with the positive iridium lens, just like this guy here, it doesn't have the Planet X frame, because Planet X kind of died out. It was on some of the M frames, but then it kind of died out. And they added a blue base with the same black crackle and called it Cobalt. So pretty much from here on out, Cobalt plus iridium became the go-to color. And then even as we got into the new Zero, which is kind of the third wave of Zeros, this is the 0.7, we had the same exact thing. We had Cobalt, which is a blue base, black crackle, but this has a polished coating on it. At the late 90s, everything started getting sort of a clear coat. So if you notice, like the eye jacket, Generation 1 versus Generation 2, before it turned into the new eye jacket, they added a polished coat onto it. But again, Cobalt plus positive iridium. And then we started seeing that even in the eye jacket, and then rumor has it the new EV0 coming up this fall will have that as well, so kind of as a throwback. So that's kind of a brief overview of the Sub-Zeros. It took me quite a while to collect all these. Actually, the very last one I think was the 1N, and this took me like 2 years to find. I just had an eBay alert, just emailed me every time something happened. Finally, one showed up, and I was able to snag it. So, sounds like my son's up. I'm going to go get him some food, and I will see you later. Thanks.